In this video, I'm going to teach you how to create one of the most profitable types of content that affiliate marketers can make, and that is the alternatives to post or video. I'm going to show you how to do the keyword research to make sure that you cover the right terms, and I'm going to show you how to compose them so that they convert. Ready? Let's get into it. So what are alternatives to posts and why do they work so well? They're very straightforward. The name says it all. They're just posts that share alternatives to popular tools. The formula usually looks like this. Alternative to plus most popular product in your niche. And then you can add things like free or paid or the current year. We'll talk more about crafting that headline towards the end of this video. This post makes sales in two different ways. Number one, sometimes you end up selling the tool that you're showing the alternatives for because the alternatives aren't as good. Number two, sometimes you sell the alternatives because people have already tried the first one and they were disenchanted by it or it was out of their price range. There's a bunch of different reasons why they want an alternative. But anyone that's looking for an alternative is in what we call the buyer intent phase. This means that these people are very likely to purchase something. So you might not get thousands of views to this post or video, but you can drive a ton of sales because the buyer intent is very high. You can have 100 visits per month and still find yourself making 3, 4, 5 sales for whatever product it is. You could even make the argument that these convert better than review posts because review posts aren't always people that have purchased or even gonna purchase. They might just be window shopping. But typically an alternative to post is people who are already serious enough to have purchased the first product. Many people come to alternatives after the first one didn't meet their expectations. So we're selling to people who are usually more serious. They're not just window shoppers, they're ready to buy. So these few visits that you're gonna get from these posts are going to drive way more sales. So now let's jump into my computer. We're gonna go into my Ahrefs account. You can use whatever keyword research tool you want, but it is important that we do keyword research before we dive in and start writing our alternatives to post. This applies to videos as well. I'm gonna be focusing on blog posts for this video, but if you want to do these, the same principles will apply for the most part if you're doing a YouTube video. All right, let's get into Ahrefs. All right, so there's a couple of ways to get started. You might already have the topic in mind and you're just gonna start writing, but if you want to verify to make sure that that term is actually being searched, so alternatives to product, I would recommend coming into Ahrefs, go to Keyword Explorer, and then type in alternative to whatever the product is. Also, you can do product plus alternative. Those are going to be semantic terms. You're going to be ranking for them anyway. But for example, I want to do one about alternatives to MailChimp, the goal being to sell ConvertKit in the list or Aweber or ActiveCampaign. So let's go ahead and type in MailChimp alternative. And the reason why that works is because MailChimp is one of the biggest names in the email marketing space. So if people are looking for alternatives, it's very likely that MailChimp is going to be the one that they start with. And that was a good one for us to start with. Okay, so here we see traffic potential 30.3 thousand, 55 on the keyword difficulty. So this one's kind of difficult. Difficulty, of course, being relative to the size of your domain. But what we're seeing here is that this is getting a ton of traffic. I can see what the top article is getting, 9 best alternatives to MailChimp, 5.1 thousand organic visits, and then the traffic value is $55.8 thousand per month. So that just shows you how valuable it is to rank for these types of terms. This means that people are buying, okay? So you see over here all of the different keywords that these are ranking for. MailChimp alternatives, like MailerLite, so that one is a little bit different. Okay, so next thing I would do is I would type in MailChimp alternatives and see what comes up first, okay? And then I would go through the article and see what they're doing. You see here, they kind of do a quick little summary of the best ones, and they just give a one-line reason why, and then each one they go down and break it down. They go MailChimp versus Moosend, MailChimp versus HubSpot. So they're really trying to get those terms in there. They want to rank for MailChimp versus HubSpot, MailChimp versus Moosend. So they're making those H2s. And this is a very long post. That's why they're ranking so high, because they did a very good job of making it incredibly detailed. If you're going to make a post like this, go all in on detail. Make it as valuable and information rich as possible. Don't go skimping on this because this is not easy to rank for, but if you rank for it, you're just printing cash. Okay? So the next thing that I would do if I was going to write this one, you see here they also added questions at the end. What I would do is I would come up to Surfer SEO next. I would come into the content editor and I would type in MailChimp alternative Okay, and I'm going to let that populate. And then I'm going to craft my article based off of what they tell me to write. All right. And again, you don't need Surfer, but I highly recommend it. It is one of the best tools for creating SEO rich content. So it's going to show us exactly what we should try to do with our article to make it rank for MailChimp alternative. It's going to show us the recommended words. This one is a doozy, 4.7 thousand to 5.4 thousand words, 21 to 50 images, paragraphs, at least 145. This is going to be a hard one to write, but we would use Surfer to compose it, and then I would take that and put it into WordPress and finish it. Now, to better explain what a good alternative to post looks like, I think we need to go through some more examples. So here is one that is ranking for best AirPod Pro alternatives. The post is just brilliantly done. Yours don't need to be this awesome looking, but this is about as good as it gets. So let me show you. First, they break it down not just into like this is the best one or here are 10 other options. They break them down even further to best all around, best workout, best features, best design, and then best value. So they're getting all different types of potential buyers here. And then they have check price, and this is going to be where their affiliate links come into play. Yep. And I'm sure they are just making a boatload of cash on that. So whatever theme they're using for WordPress is beautiful. I love it. Look at this. They've got the review star rating over here, 7.6, 7.7, pros and cons. Bottom line, one thing with alternative to posts is they're an awesome opportunity to add your links to your other review posts. So let's say that they did a review of the Sony WF-1000XM4s. They did. So down here they said read the full review. So now they're getting a lot of traffic from that post as well. You won't always make the sale directly from the alternatives to post, but if you're sending people to other pieces of content, that's going to help you make the sale. So if you get them from here all the way over to the review post, it's only getting better, right? You're going to increase your chances of sales, more touch points. You're going to definitely see more conversions in that way. So they have done reviews for all of these. I would recommend that if the alternatives to post is over a topic that's super important and covering tools that are very important, you should write a review for each of those tools. And then you should eventually go back and add it into your alternatives to post in a similar way that they did here, down here at the bottom. Okay, and let's go over here, look at the table of contents. They have them broken down again, like I said, workout, Android, comfort, right? And then the one thing that they do add that I've noticed on most alternative to posts is an FAQ. Having FAQ schema in your blog post is going to help you show up in the questions asked area. So you're going to have a better chance of getting more traffic and also getting up to the top of Google almost immediately. Okay, let's do one more example. Let's say that you're promoting some sort of marketplace similar to Fiverr, right? So it's a marketplace where people sell different services, and you know that the service space is dominated by Fiverr. So we would do Fiverr alternatives. And you'll notice that there's going to be a lot of ads because all the competitors of Fiverr are going to be running ads to this term. It's just a perfect term to rank for. Upwork is a Fiverr alternative, and they want people who are searching for alternatives to see them. So we will always be competing with those paid ads, but don't let that deter you. A lot of people still scroll down, most people still scroll down and click on the organic results. So this one right here is a great example, 8 best Fiverr alternatives for business and freelancers. One thing that you'll notice too is that every company that does inbound marketing, does content marketing to grow their business, they will try to always rank for alternative to their competitors' posts. Most of the alternative to will be from competitors of the product versus actual affiliates. All right, so 8 best Fiverr alternatives. Let's see how this one's laid out. Pretty straightforward. Upwork, 99 Designs, Guru, little pop-up, top tail. So this one's very basic. This is kind of going to be more like I would expect from my audience to put together. Pretty straightforward, but it's ranking number 1. 99 Designs does have a pretty high domain authority, but that is just another good example of a alternatives to post. It doesn't have to be as wonderful as the first example I showed you. You just need to beat the competition. So always go through and see what is already ranking for alternative to whatever your post is. So the next thing I want to do is go through choosing the headline for your post title. So at the beginning of this video, I explained how the formula is alternatives to plus popular product in the space And then I mentioned some add-ons that can make the headline a little bit more appealing. The best way to come up with your own headline is to review the best headlines that are already ranking for the alternative to your product. We can go through those and see what's working and look particularly at articles with low domain authority that are kind of overperforming to see if maybe that headline has something to do with it. So to show you what I'm talking about, let's jump into Ahrefs and we can analyze some of the headlines. So let's keep going with that Fiverr alternatives example. So let's just type in alternatives to Fiverr in the Keyword Explorer. Also, if you don't have Ahrefs, you can just do this in Google and check out all of the top 10 to top 20 articles that are showing up in the search engine. Those are going to be the ones that we really want to check out. So inside of Ahrefs, if you scroll down to the bottom, they're going to actually show you all of the top 10 placements. So we can see all of those different headlines. So I recommend just going through each of them and getting an idea of what's working and what's not, and all the different elements that are being used. One thing to keep in mind, I usually err on the side of more is more when it comes to lists of items. So even though 8 best alternatives is the one that's at the top, I would still try to beat this one that has 15 websites better than Fiverr. It's not a perfect formula, but for the most part, more is usually more. So I'd recommend that if you're going to do alternatives, share all of the alternatives. Don't make up fake ones, but I would start by going through these posts, seeing which 15 websites they're using as alternatives and seeing if they're really alternatives, and if you can include them, include them. If not, don't force it. You can go down to 8 or 12 or whatever it is. And you're also welcome to try the other approach. Maybe people want fewer options. You could go with 5 best Fiverr alternatives. Over time, you'll start to get a feel for what people really want. But that's the first thing I'm looking at, is how many alternatives are there? So it looks like it's varying between 8 and 15. Next, I want to look at what terms people are using. So the number one option is 8 best Fiverr alternatives for businesses and freelancers. So that one does a couple of things. Number one, it uses the word best. Fiverr alternatives is right there in the headline. So we have to decide, are we going to do Fiverr alternatives or alternatives to Fiverr? Typically doing product alternatives is best. Also, if we want to search that, we can. It's going to show up a little bit differently. Like I said, these are going to be semantic terms, so you'll be ranking for a lot of them. Fiverr alternatives actually gets a lot more views. So let's use that instead. Okay, but the list is pretty similar. The only difference is a couple of things moved around, like that top 15 moved down to 9. The 99 Designs article is still number 1. Okay, so let's go down the list here. 11 best Fiverr alternatives, sites like Fiverr in 2022. So they tried to combine multiple things. They did Fiverr alternatives and sites like Fiverr. So they're going after both of those terms, and they wanted to fit them into the headline. Also down here, they have Guru99, which is their domain. A lot of websites do that where they just put their domain at the end. It's just an automatic little formula they have. And also notice that they capitalize the word best. You can do that. I've had good and bad experiences with that. It's something you can test out. Google does not penalize you for doing that. I think that if it gets crazy, they do. Like if you have all caps, it's going to look nonsensical. But if you just have the word best capitalized, that can work. The best Fiverr alternatives for 2022, adding the year is something that I'd recommend. It makes people think that it's more recent, especially if they see one that's 2020 or 2019, or it's more likely that they're going to click on the more recent one. Okay, 8 best sites like Fiverr, pros and cons. So they're doing sites like Fiverr. Top 10 Fiverr alternatives and competitors. So they're fitting in the word competitors. 15 websites better than Fiverr. So that's a cool approach, saying that these are actually not just alternatives, they're better. So what I would do next, now that I've reviewed all the headlines, is I would open up this tool that I use called Headline Studio. You don't need this. It's a premium tool that I use and love, but it really makes it easier for me to craft headlines that are going to perform well. So I'm going to start, let's say that I have 10 best Fiverr alternatives. I'm going to click Analyze. And that's actually a really good headline. 89 is super high. One last thing that I want to touch on is the free alternative to type of post. This post is great for traffic, but it's not as good for conversions. The reason being is that it's people that want something for free. If you just want to drive traffic and build awareness to other tools, you can absolutely do that. I recommend usually doing free plus paid. So if you want to highlight free alternatives, you can do that, but I would also include paid ones, or promote tools that have free alternatives that then go into paid upgrades. It's okay to just do free alternatives. You don't have to be selling all the time. Those types of posts will get a lot of traffic, but it's something to keep in mind. Don't expect those massive conversion rates if you're doing free alternatives too, because it's people that are looking for something for free. All right, so let's go ahead and put a bow on this and summarize all of the key points of writing good alternative to posts. Number one, you want to go after the biggest name in the space first. You can write multiple alternatives to posts for the same types of products, but typically you want to go after one and really go all in on it and make it the biggest one in the space. So for example, if I wanted to sell email marketing software, I would probably go after MailChimp because they are one of the biggest. And it doesn't matter if the product you're promoting is the alternative. Like we mentioned earlier, sometimes the alternative to will actually help sell. Number two, more is generally more. Compare the articles that are ranking at the top of Google and see what they're doing. I highly recommend you use a tool like Surfer SEO to see exactly what you need to do from an SEO standpoint to make sure that your article is going to rank above the others. So that means if they have 10 alternatives, you should try to be close to that. If theirs is 4,000 words, you probably want to be close to that. You want to beat the articles that are already out there. If you aren't beating them in terms of content, it's going to be very unlikely that you're going to beat them on backlinks and all the stuff that matters. You need to make sure that your content is really good. And these are very profitable posts, so don't skimp on them. Take the time to make sure that you make your post as detailed as possible and make sure that it is a better article than anything else that's already out there. Number three, focus on product plus alternatives versus alternatives to product when it comes to your main keywords. Those are semantic, so you will rank for both and you'll include both in your content, but alternative to product usually gets less clicks and views than product plus alternative. Number four, include free options, but an article that is completely focused just on the free options is not going to be as profitable. There's nothing wrong with doing those. It can build goodwill and it can also build awareness to other products. But just keep in mind, you're not going to see those same conversion rates and massive amounts of sales that you're going to see when you have paid alternatives. Number five, sprinkle your alternative to post with other content. Alternative to posts are a great way for you to keep people learning, and you want to send them to things like your reviews, or if you have versus posts where you compare the two big players, add those throughout your content and make sure that they're clicking on multiple pages. The more clicks you get, the more likely you are to make a sale. And number six, be sure to craft a good headline that is based around what's already working in search engines. So go through the top 10 to 20 competitors on Google and see what they're doing and then emulate it yourself. Make your headline better. I do recommend a tool like CoSchedule's Headline Studio, but that is optional. Just make sure that you craft something that is going to stand out and be at least as good as the stuff that's already up at the top. One last tip for those of you who stuck around, check out a website called alternative2.net if you're doing software alternative to posts. So with that MailChimp example, I would just type in MailChimp and they have 295 alternatives. Obviously, your post doesn't need to have 295 alternatives, but you should target the top 10 or 15 or 20, whatever it is that you think is that ideal number, and then use those. This is going to give you a good idea of what the alternatives are, and it's also going to give you good insights on what they do differently. It also shows awesome insights from actual users that compare them. So like right here, it has most of the features of MailChimp, good email deliverability, and very attractive pricing. It also shows the top negative comments. From my experience, Sender does not have the features that MailChimp has, blah, 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 are better alternatives. So you can find a lot of really great insights there. All right, guys, that is it. As always, thank you so much for watching all the way through to the end. That really means a lot to me. If you made it this far, you're pretty serious about affiliate marketing, which means that you should subscribe to this channel. And if you haven't already, go check out my book on Amazon, Evergreen Affiliate Marketing. It's available on print, Kindle, and Audible. Again, can't say it enough. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.